His clone has offered many guild invitations but doesn't talk to any of the recruiters, causing them to swarm even more. After this continues for a while, the real Sanghavu secretly appears and gives his clone more ammunition to hunt even more horned rabbits, causing the crowd to go even more rampant. The scene then shifts to Sanghavu in the middle of his tutoring job, spacing out thinking how surprisingly useful the clones actually are. He realizes how his clones are very machine-like in the fact that they don't hesitate at all, and how they also have inhuman concentration on the tasks at hand. His daydream is interrupted by Sanghavu's student, Ms. Hyeong. She asks what Sanghavu was thinking about so intently, and he has to break the news to her that he recently became a hunter. She's really impressed and surprisingly enough asks Sanghavu if he knows the recent hunter all over the internet, nicknamed the God of Aim, which funnily enough turns out to be Sanghavu's clone, with Hyeong none the wiser to that fact. They converse some more, and they end up making a promise to go to the hunting grounds together if Hyeong can get good enough grades to get into college, ending the tutoring session there. After the session, Sanghavu heads over to the rabbit hunting grounds, where he meets both Kang and one of his clones. The coats collection for the horned rabbits is going underway, and Kang shares his amazement of how many coats collection personnel he had to hire to transport the 200 hunted rabbits. But just as they are enjoying the benefits of the hunt, a hostile hunter approaches them demanding payment. He is upset about how Sanghavu's clone essentially took all of his prey and demands absurd compensation. Although things seem to be hopeless in regards to handling the situation, Sanghavu thinks of a foolproof plan. He purposefully aggravates the hunter and cleverly makes him punch one of his clones, getting it all on video, threatening to use it to ruin his reputation. This plan is successful, and the hunter has no other choice, so he leaves frustrated. After the run-in with the hostile hunter, the trio are seen at a coffee shop, discussing how the thug that they just confronted most likely was a member of the Haesung Guild. They discuss how the Haesung Guild likely sent one of their members to harass the new member of Kang's guild, and Kang is very distressed by it, apologizing to Sanghavu. But Sanghavu doesn't mind it at all and firmly stands with Kang, even developing another foolproof plan to get stronger a lot quicker. The plan involves going into the hunter market, a departmental store that has everything a hunter would ever need. In the hunter market, they buy things such as armor sets for the clones and even weapons. But what they really came there for was the familiar skill. The familiar skill, if used, enables the user to share their senses and vision with their summons and pets. The methodology behind this plan involves him sending his clones off to training and him using the familiar skill to essentially learn the movements alongside them. Yeah guys, I know, it's getting pretty complicated, but bear with me. Sanghavu ends up getting the familiar skill, and he sends his clones off to train in both martial arts and shooting practice. His plan is a massive success, and he can now essentially copy what his superhuman clones can do, thus making him superhuman as well. While sharing senses with his clones, his body receives all the fatigue the clones would experience, so he sits down at a bench to recover. But as he is resting, someone calls him teacher. He turns and is surprised to see that it's his student Hyeong walking home from studying. They talk about various things, but as they are talking, the thug that approached him at the horned rabbit hunting grounds looks at them from afar, with two other thugs planning to get back at him. While the thug was explaining how he is getting blackmailed by Sanghavu to his superior, they happen to see Sanghavu, so the thugs go up to both Sanghavu and Hyeong with ill intent. They proceed to threaten Sanghavu and demand he delete the video he took. After Sanghavu doesn't comply with the thugs, they proceed to gang up on him and they get into an all-out fist fight. But using his newly acquired knowledge and the senses he gained with his plan with the familiar skill, he puts up a good fight against the three thugs. But things end up escalating so much to the point that Hyeong has to step in and help Sanghavu using her own awakened powers, which gives Sanghavu enough time for his clones to come help. The three thugs are taken care of, and because of all the exhaustion from the battle, Samvalu passes out. The scene shifts into Samvalu and Hyeong talking about how the famous hunter all over the internet was one of Sanghavu's clones, much to the surprise of Hyeong. They talk for a little more, and Sanghavu promises again to Hyeong that they will go out to dinner because of her help in the fight. The two part ways and the day ends. A whole month passes and Sangawu's abilities have become increasingly more overpowered. He can now use a handgun effectively and he even leveled up enough to the point to get a third clone. After sending his clones out to level up even further, he thinks of another plan to watch hunting videos to gain even more knowledge about the strategies of taking on various monsters. After the clones are done working out, and Sangawu gained a substantial amount of knowledge on the different types of monsters found in dungeons, he meets up with Kang to send his 3 clones into 3 separate hunting grounds, all at the same time. All the while he stays home and works on a technique called mana breathing to further his familiar ability use. He ends up getting a meditation skill, something that is not what he was looking for. The scene shifts suddenly to a terrifying mutated fish monster who recently got done killing everyone in a party, presumably where one of his clones would go hunting. Like guys, when I tell you this thing is terrifying, I'm not kidding. The hunting is going well with the other clones, and Sangawu uses his familiar ability and his new knowledge he gained from watching the hunting videos to effectively hunt the lesser monsters of the dungeon. Things are going well until he realizes he hadn't been picking up any of the monster corpses that his clones had been hunting, so understandably chasing the money, he orders his clones to go retrace their steps and pick them back up. But one of his clones comes across a bunch of fish corpses that he hadn't hunted. This is odd because the corpses were slaughtered in a very grotesque way, something no regular hunter could do. And then something horrifying happens. His clone proceeds to find a severed human arm, which shifts the whole atmosphere completely. Just as Sangawu was processing what had happened, the fish monster that was mentioned before murders his clone, breaking the link of the familiar skill, resulting in Sangawu to jolt back in pain, stunned. He frantically orders all of his clones to come to the fish monster hunting grounds to face this mutated fish monster. The fish monster is called Fishman, and it isn't supposed to be in this low-level dungeon, being a rank D threat, something even a full party of E-class hunters can't hunt. Kang immediately goes to call the authorities to close the hunting grounds, but Sangawu sends his clones in to fight it, seeing how they can't just sit and wait for it to kill more people. The clones go into the dungeon, with Sangawu overseeing everything using his familiar skill. They find the fishman eating dead corpses, but this gives them an opportunity to attack first.